Good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to one of our spiritual educational evenings. Absolutely lovely couple as our guests tonight. I had the great pleasure of a personal visit from them a couple of days ago. I am still wading through mountains of cake that was deposited here.
Yes.
And people that know me know the way to my heart is through cake. So also gave us a wonderful talk last year in the midst of the first pandemic, if I believe correctly. So very happy to welcome back Fiona and Paul Parry Dodd. Sorry.
Well, I'm the Parry. I'm the Parry,
She's
Lawrence,
the Parry.
and Paul's the Dodd. But my name's Parry. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Fiona and Paul, good evening.
Good evening, Laurie. Good evening.
Hello, everybody who's tuning in tonight. We're really grateful.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Good. In the words of my namesake, Ken Dodd, we're tickled to bits to be here tonight. And I hope you've got your chuckle box in gear. Because as much as
Fiona, do you have to have him there? Is there nothing he could be doing?
Well, that's it, isn't it? We're like the double act, the two Ronnies. That's what we're like, or Morecambe and Wise. So he's always the funny one, and I'm the sidekick. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank you for giving your time. We look forward to a very interesting and informative evening. So at this time, you are running the SunflowerMoon Holistics and Hypnotherapy Centre. But where did this come from? How did we get here today?
Well, it's been quite a long journey, but
it has been quite some journey, and we're happy to share that. Really pleased to share it with everyone tonight. And what came to mind just before we came on this evening was that film "It's a Wonderful Life." You remember that one, James Stewart, 1946, just after the war, and it is a wonderful life overall. And okay, it may not have felt like that a bit last year with all the challenges that brought, but in the overall scheme of things, it is a pretty wonderful life, and we need to remember and celebrate that.
Very true.
But it comes with challenges. You know, as the film demonstrated, it comes with difficulties, challenges, significant events throughout our life, and those things stay with us, and they shape us, they form who we are, and the events of our ancestors before us, good things and the bad things, all shape who we are. The feelings and the emotions go with it, and it all gets dropped into our subconscious minds. And it's lurking there, and at some point it keeps resurfacing and showing itself. So
sorry to interrupt the flow there, but that is very interesting because of this time with all the different topics going on. Our ancestry and our lineage is actually coming a lot more to the fore of the consciousness of many people. So I'm loving that. Thank you. I do apologize.
No, absolutely. You're hosting. You can quite willingly chip in. You're in control, Lawrence. We always do as you tell us to.
I'm being very good tonight because me, I never stop talking, but it's shared thing.
By the way, Lawrence, I've not been able to find that coffee you served up very nicely the other day. I've checked all the supermarkets on the way back to Devon and couldn't find it anywhere. So all these things happen and all throughout our life, and it shapes us, and it stresses, we feel, the importance of understanding ourselves and our ancestors. Do you think what happened to, who was that guy in the film?
George Bailey. It's a Wonderful Life. George Bailey. He'd been, as a little boy, he'd helped everybody. He was a kind boy. He did everything for everyone. And then he got married, and he started to have the challenges, which is what happens as we navigate our way along the life path. And he reached a point where he didn't want to be here anymore, and he found himself on the bridge. And that's when Clarence appeared, the angel. And we all know, we've all met an angel, haven't we, on our life's journey when we've got a bit stuck and we've needed help and we've prayed for help and we've asked for help. and it just turns up just at the right time. And we think that's a coincidence. But, you know, he navigated his way, didn't he? George Bailey. And he was shown all the good things he'd done in his life and all the people he'd helped. And if he hadn't been here, it would have made a big difference. It would have made a big difference to a lot of people. It's like, you know, we don't realise, do we, when we're helping people, it might be just one little thing that we say of kindness or do, but it can change their life.
Very true. Yeah.
You know, we have a habit of focusing on the bad things. So we've got a beautiful sheet of clean paper there. And for George Bailey, he had that one bad traumatic event, and it just completely obliterated all of the good things that had happened. And rather than going through that beautiful remembrance of all of those wonderful things, the kind things, the loving things, we tend to hang on to that one bad thing and forget about that. So tonight, Lawrence,
that reminded me of my blinds in the kitchen. I don't know why.
I didn't actually use a pen on them, though, did I?
No, you didn't.
I think if I did, we wouldn't be here tonight, would we?
No.
So tonight, Lawrence, we'd like to talk about transitions and challenges on our life path, and how to navigate our way through them, and how they essentially form the basis of our beloved Sunflower Moon. And in amongst there, I'm going to talk a bit about some red lights, but not the sort in Amsterdam, Lawrence. So don't get carried away there.
Oh, hello.
That's all right. I've just put my foot in it. Literally just put my foot in the glass and it's tripled over, but there's nothing in it.
Thankfully, it was a glass and not a bucket. You don't want you kicking the bucket in the middle of a show.
No, we don't. No.
Not 10 out of 10 for honesty, and not saying, oh, look, Spirit did that.
Yeah. So a bit about red lights, which hopefully is a power you agree, but not the type in Amsterdam, because it's a family show.
Okay. Yeah, looking forward to this.
So...
Right, so it's over to me, is it?
It's over to you.
Over to me.
In the centre of the two Ronnies.
So I'm going to speak about when Paul and I first came together, and I was from the north, as you can probably guess from my accent, and Paul was from the south of England, and we met. It was quite a significant event when we met. I was 22, Paul was 24. We both had different journeys in our childhood. We both had different sets of parents and upbringing. And so those four families came together and we became one family, didn't we? And so we're aware then that I came with my toolkit to enable me to navigate my journey on the life path, which is what I'd been doing up to the time that I met Paul. And Paul had his individual toolkit that had all his experiences of life and all those things that happened to him and happened to his parents and happened to his parents before them, which is the same on my side of the family. My journey was a very different journey to Paul's. I'm very grateful for those experiences I've had, because it's enabled me to be the person that I am today. And I expect many people who are listening to this tonight will be able to relate to all of that as we go forward.
And I suppose at that point, they weren't formal tools, were they? They're things we
tools,
learn as we go along, things we're taught, behaviours that we watch and observe as to what's good and bad, things we learn at school, good and bad.
Things that are passed on down, the beliefs, the languages, the behaviours, the traditions.
But it's all tools in one form or another. We just don't
we didn't
describe
understand
them,
any of it, did we?
It's learning, it's knowledge.
Yeah.
Wouldn't quite go as far as saying it's wisdom at that point, but it's learning.
Well, we were young, weren't we? And then, I mean, I remember we had a talk given to us before we got married, and the guy who took us through about the service, and he said, "Look at the pair of you," he said. "You really loved up the two of you," he said. And he looked like Jasper Carrot, this guy. And that's all I could think about when I was looking at him. It made me laugh. But he said, "Look at the pair of you." He said, "You're so loved up together." And he said, "But let me just warn you," he said, "that life won't quite be how you think it's going to be. And there will be challenges and there will be transitions and there will be things that you have to navigate your way through. And as he said it, I remember thinking, oh, I don't want to think about that. Why is he telling us that? Because I was in a cloud nine. I was in this little world of my own. We both were, weren't we?
We were.
But we soon learned, after we got married, that we'd stepped onto that path and we started to experience the life challenges and the things that we didn't quite know. The unexpected things as you navigate along that path. You can't be prepared for everything. So it's like what's happened with the COVID. We know none of us could have been prepared for what we've been through in the last year. And it doesn't matter how much our parents can try to prepare us for what's ahead on the journey. They can't prepare us for everything because everything's a new experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yes, it has been. And there again, as I've learned as a hypnotherapist, for that man who gave us that talk, he opened up my critical faculty. So as I am a hypnotherapist, as you know, so, you know, those life stages up to the age of 8, if we have anything significant, that everything that we experience up to the age of 8, we have no door that defines our mind between the conscious mind and the subconscious. Everything we experience up to the age of 8, it's in there forever.
There's no filter.
There's no filter.
No filter.
No filter at all.
So everything's in the back of your mind somewhere.
Yeah.
Even though you may not think it's going, oh, I'm not listening. Yeah. Even if you're not listening, it's still going in.
And there are access points to get into that after the age of 8. When the door, if you imagine it like a door and it's shut, like a door into a garden, really, with a gate, and it's got a lock and a padlock on it. You spend the rest of your life looking for the key, you know, and that's what I've been searching for. And that's what I found now when I trained in hypnotherapy. I found the key to the door to my subconscious. And that's where everything is. Everything is in that area. So it's been quite something. I mean, I'm no secret to how old I am. I'm a grandmother. I'm 58. It's taken me 8+ years to understand on my own healing journey, to understand the ancestors.
And I'm 95, but I don't look bad, do I?
You don't
really?
look 95. No. So it's been huge, hasn't it? This journey, huge. And it's like the seasons, isn't it? We go through the seasons of life.
Well, life is one full transition, isn't it? It's big events. It's period up to puberty, up to menopause, and then onwards. Every year, going from year to year, season to season, month to month, day to day.
And we're changing.
Every day
time.
is a transition. We transition from today through the night into tomorrow. Every day is different. Every hour is different.
Getting back to us on our path when we set off, everyone will have their own experiences of being on their life path. But, we've had quite a lot in our life together. I mean, we're 35 years married next week. It hasn't been easy. We'd be a liar to say that our life has been easy. People say to us, gosh, you've been married that long. I mean, Paul's mum and dad, they've been married 67 years. And, that to us, we still feel like we're newlyweds, really, compared to Paul's mum and dad. But each step of the way has been a challenge that we've had to overcome. And we think about the challenges that we've had to deal with. Everyone out there who's listening tonight will be able to relate to those things because it's a normal, natural part of life. Getting married, or setting up home together is something you have to adjust on the journey. What else is there? There's moving house, moving area, moving to a complete new area, making all new friends and adjusting to finding your way about in that new area.
Losing friends,
making new friends, losing jobs, being made redundant, having a baby. I mean, anyone who's out there tonight who's had a baby knows that life is never the same again after you've had a baby. They show it all on the media and make it all look as if it's all roses round the door. It's not. In reality, there's the sleepless nights, and that's even before you get to all the other bits.
But in the scheme of things, it's a wonderful experience overall, but not without challenges.
Yeah, and so you have to learn how to adjust to that, and that's what we have to do. And then there's people, like who've lost a baby. That's not for the faint-hearted, is it? To lose a baby, it's not for the faint-hearted to lose somebody that you love very much. It's not for the faint-hearted to be with somebody at end of life and to support them through a long-term illness, whether that's dementia, cancer, whatever it is. But it's life. Somebody said to me at where I work at the hospice, one day I was having a tough time because it's hard sometimes. We are people with feelings and emotions and we care. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. And this dear lady that works there, she's just amazing. And she turned to me and she said, Fiona, it's life. And it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a part of life.
Yeah, it's a continuum of life.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's so true, isn't it? It's when we get to those median points where we can't see the light anymore and we can't think there's any solution or way out of where we are at that time. There is. It does come along.
Well, we're back to George Bailey again, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're back to George Bailey.
Yeah.
When Clarence comes in and shows him, you have got a life worth living.
And sometimes you need someone else to show you that, to remind you that.
Sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees, and it's true. Those old sayings are true. You cannot see the wood for the trees. You can be in it, and you can't see your way out. Because you need to remove yourself from the situation and look at it like you were looking on a film. Because when you're in it, you're in with the emotions of it. And it's the emotions and the feelings that take us out like a tsunami, and it's easier said than done. It takes practice. It isn't easy. I'm not saying it's easy because many times, I'm aware. But it's the mind discipline. It's the discipline.
It's a bit like I always think it's life, and where we get to in life is a bit like a light bulb, actually. And you start off, you're born, you're pure, you're brilliant. There's a fantastic light within you, and it's shining bright. Yeah. Everyone can see that light. But if you get all of these challenges, these difficulties, it's like a speck of dust gets stuck on your light bulb, and the more of them that come along, the more get stuck to it, until eventually that light is so dim from the outside because it's encrusted with all these difficulties and issues and problems. But if you can start rubbing away and get behind that surface, the light is just as bright inside as it's ever been. It's not gone, it's not disappeared, it's just got covered, consumed with all of these things. So we only need some static thing which keeps it all away from us in the first place. Or we need to start finding tools and techniques so we can just start to rub it away and slowly let it come back out.
Yeah, you said something interesting there about emotions.
Yeah.
When you're in the forest, when you're lost in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we then revert straight to our emotional responses to things. And they often can exacerbate any situation we're in, because if we are feeling a little bit defensive, and somebody says something, it's like, rah! It all comes out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's about being a human, about being a human being.
Oh, thank God for that.
Hooray! Okay.
It's official. I'm human. Hurrah!
A few years ago, Lawrence, I was sat doing because I sit with Spirit every day, but I was sat with a group of very dear friends of mine that I sit with regularly. And Spirit gave me a picture and a message to do. And they showed me a diamond. That's what they showed me. And they said, we are many facets of that diamond. There's more to us than we think, because there are many facets to a diamond. And I thought, I don't understand what you mean, because I didn't at the time. And that's what it's like, the life journey. We don't always understand, do we, when we get given a message or we're in a situation. We can think, I don't quite understand what you mean. And so we have to keep plodding on until the picture comes clear. Well, I know that having now done the hypnotherapy course, and I did about parts therapy, so I'm back to hypno again now, because it's been life-changing for me to understand the benefits of understanding your own mind, your own subconscious, and what connects us to the world of spirit. But with the diamond and the parts therapy, what I learned when I did the parts therapy and hypnotherapy is that we can be up to 20 different personalities, and that we present to the world the personalities, the facets of the diamond that we want people to see of us, that we feel comfortable in. It's when we are asked to show the parts of us or the facets of us that we're not so comfortable with. That's when the difficulties come. And if those things are created in that growing up to 8 and beyond, when you think of little children, they are totally themselves. They have no inhibitions. They are totally free spirits. And people will check them and want to create them, and they'll
mold them, shape them.
And so that is ingrained within them then going forward. So then you've got issues with people with lack of confidence and being able to stand on a stage and talk, because that facet of the diamond, that part of them is self-conscious. It's, no, I can't do that because it's embarrassing, or people may laugh at me, or there are all these excuses and all that internal dialogue's going on.
So it's not saying we shouldn't guide and help shape that. It's just being mindful how much we are molding and how much influence that can bring, which will stay within that person.
And so up to that age of 8, that door is wide open. It's wide open, and that child is so impressionable. It's so impressionable. Then after 8, the door shuts, and there's only certain ways of accessing and opening the door.
Like some of the events we've talked about, like loss of child or moving home and things.
That's a traumatic
event, an emotional thing, which opens the door, in it goes, drops it into your subconscious. There's another layer, another speck on your bulb. Whatever.
So if you've been at the bedside of somebody who's been dying, and there'll be people out here tonight who have been in that situation, that memory is there, as clear as it has just happened.
And as soon as the memory's brought back, the emotions are brought back.
The emotions come up with it. And so that's what we have to learn to
understand. And if you understand and recognize it, then we can start to work with it to find a way.
Yes, it has, Phil. Thank you for asking that question, Phil. I really appreciate that. Yes, it has deepened my connection with spirit. I've always had a faith. On my life journey as a child, I was an only child. I grew up an only child, and I lived out in Wales in the country. So I had lots of time on my own. And it's, Phil, it's about the imagination. Children have wonderful imaginations.
I still have some. I'm still a big child.
Oh, deep down inside, we're still children, aren't we, really? We're all masquerading as adults and pretending we know it and we've got it all. But deep down, if people were honest with themselves, they still feel the same as they did as a little girl or a little boy.
True.
Because it's all in your subconscious. So it will come rushing back sometimes when our granddaughter's playing with dolls and teddies or games, that will just suddenly come straight back again.
We're allowed to then, aren't we, when we're with the children, or when we're with friends who don't care about us, what letting our inhibitions go. We're just ourselves, aren't we? This is what we're meeting with our lovely spiritual friends. We're allowed to be ourselves all the time.
Let it all out.
Just let it all out.
You said something there, and again, this is a thinking of mine over the last probably 6 or 7 months. And you said we're all these different characters and personalities, and that's exactly what I've been saying to people. We spend the majority of our life being somebody else to someone else. be it father, mother, brother, sister, husband, whatever. We are that person because their creation of us is in that role.
Yeah.
One of the things we found, the benefits of nights like this, cooking up with the spiritual side of people and in the church now as well, is that we can express what I call the true us.
Yes, that's right.
We're not being anything when we come to church. We're not being somebody. We're being us.
Yeah.
And talking as us.
Yeah.
And it's really therapeutic.
Yeah. And people who don't know you well say, "Oh, you've changed." But actually, you've not changed. You've just reconnected with who you truly are.
Yeah.
Or who you were.
Yeah.
They just never saw that before.
No.
Because they see different facets of your diamond.
Yeah, they do. What you're prepared to show, the facets of your diamond that you're prepared to reveal to the world. And when you reach a point of being prepared to show all of the diamonds, which is what each and every one of us are, we are a diamond, all of us. And that's what Spirit told me. We are a diamond. And when we're brave enough to show the whole diamond, that's when we reach a place of it's just absolute bliss. It's just heaven. It's just, I just can't describe how wonderful it feels when you reach that place. And I just feel sad for anyone who goes through life and they're not prepared to be their true self of what they were born to be.
But it can be difficult though, can't it, as well sometimes, particularly when you're in a job at work where you're expected to behave in a certain way, you have to behave in a certain way to fit in, to get on. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not always easy.
Well, it starts at school, doesn't it? If you think back to it being at school, when
you're not part of the gang.
You're not part of the gang. I wasn't in the in crowd. I know what that, but you know what? It doesn't matter anymore. I found my own gang. Found my own gang now. So, you find your own. Yeah, that's it, Joan. Labels.
Yeah. And you're right, being true to yourself is being true to others, or being true to others is being true to yourself. And it's if you sort of stay with the spirituality type theme, that's one of the things which people are less perhaps willing to reveal, shall we say, because we know that sometimes the reaction that can give them, particularly in the work environments. But I've gone through one of my big life transitions just in the last couple of months. I've retired from my job in the NHS for 30 years. I don't like the label, as you just said, Joan, retirement, because that suggests you're moving into doing slippers and pipes and things, and it's not. It's just stepping. It's not even stepping off a path. It's kind of stepping from one field into another field, and this is a playing field, not a work field. But as I got towards the end of that period, my inhibitions about revealing who I really am became less and less. And you can see my hair's much longer. I've not had my hair cut since COVID started, and my interests, beliefs of spirituality and
the way you're dressing,
Reiki, meditation, all of that, it's out there now. And that was for the last year. And people, interestingly, the number of other people that came forward at the same time in response to that was quite amazing. You almost needed someone to say that and say, it's okay to say that then. And the number of people that I worked with as colleagues who had the similar interests was quite remarkable, really. So we're everywhere. We are everywhere. We are not alone, for sure.
Well, that's what Spirit said to me when I stepped onto this new path. It was, you've got to be brave, Fiona. And I went, I'm not brave. And they said, but you've got to be brave. So it's one foot in front of the other every day. Little steps. It's not a race. We don't have to be like the hare. Just little steps. In fact, I've got something.
Well, I've got one here. Plato, it's an old quote from Plato, wasn't it? Never discourage anyone who is continually makes progress, no matter how slow.
Yeah.
The old autism, and that was Plato, and gosh, that goes right back to ancient times. So that the importance of that was recognized even back then. We've all know about the tortoise and the hare and all this, but this is not something new, and most of what we talk about is not new, but it gets forgotten.
Well, before we came on air tonight, I went into my little desk, and on it is a little tortoise. I don't know if anyone can see
tortoise.
It's a shell, isn't it? You open it up, and there's a seat there, so it's saying there's no hurry. You can pull up a seat and sit down. You don't have to be on the go all the time, which is we tend to be rushing around, don't we, on the go all the time? But we miss things.
There's a question there.
That's a good question, Sue.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Sue's asking.
Across as judgmental, Sue. You asking that? Do you feel that we need to break the pattern of learning to be judgmental, which began from childhood, and teach discernment?
I suppose what you're saying is that we all, even subconsciously, form opinions
we do,
about things.
We do.
People.
We do.
That happen without even thinking that, because of what has been dropped into our subconscious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess to a point, that's absolutely right.
It is right, Sue, but it's not. But it's recognizing it in yourself. You know, we don't always recognize things in ourselves that is quite apparent to other people. And even us sitting here tonight, we're still learning and evolving, and we'll be learning and evolving until we walk right off the path home. Because every person we meet on our journey is teaching us things. Every reading that I do, it's so humbling, because I think that I've worked things out, and then I'll get a huge lesson of understanding that you haven't quite worked it out yet, Fiona. You're still, but what I have realized is that the more we can empty our conscious mind from all that programming, all those beliefs, all those behaviors, all of those things that we think is what life should be like, when actually should they be, the more clear a conscious mind we have, the more of a pure channel we have through the subconscious. Because the things that block and cloud and block the conscious mind is a barrier to the subconscious. That's what I've been learning.
So the more we can tap into our subconscious, the more we become aware of what's being dropped in there. Because we tend to just respond to things rather than react to things. So kind of taking that moment to not respond with what used to be called a knee-jerk reaction, but to just take a moment to just consider and then react.
Think about it, question it, and ask where that thought came from, where that belief came from. I often hear my mother's words. It doesn't come out as often as it did now, because it's the discipline, it's the self-discipline of the mind.
But the trick is to be able to do that quickly without having to kind of consciously think about it. It's difficult. I can think of an event about a year and a half ago that we both did similar things. There was an inbuilt belief about something that we both had from our family and parents about
we won't say what it is.
No, we won't.
We don't offend anyone, but we were ashamed of it.
And we both had the immediate same reaction
at the same
to it,
time.
but we managed to stop ourselves both immediately and said, that's not right.
No, and we went back to talk about it with ourselves afterwards, and we both realised where that belief had come from. We tracked it back.
But we both recognise at the same. So with practice, I think, and awareness, we can start to quickly recognise where some of those beliefs and reactions come from.
It's questioning everything. It's questioning absolutely everything that you have a belief about. And that's where that's come from.
What might be a useful tool to use if you come across somebody who's being challenging, first of all, is ask yourself, is this my perception of how they should be is where the challenge is coming up, or is there something else there? So, you know, they've said something challenging. Well, okay, is that just because it's challenging me is where I'm getting this emotional response? Or it's one thing I try to do very much with people, and it's a little thing just happened with me, is not so much listening to the words of what people say, is trying to listen to the energy behind it. You know, and not hear, you know, when you get an outburst, go, okay, and the outburst has gone. It's gone over my head. But I'm trying to find out where did that outburst come from? What was its initial energy? And that's very interesting to see.
A person's energy can tell us so much more about them than the words they use.
But
the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between fact and fiction. It goes by a feeling and an emotion. So if the memory's there, it'll get, if you have a memory of something, you'll get the feeling and the emotion that was attached to the memory.
So if it's triggered, it triggers the emotions and the feelings, because the subconscious thinks it's now.
It thinks it's now.
That's interesting.
That's how it works. It thinks it's now. You know, it might have happened 10 years ago, and so then we're into significant events, aren't we?
And how all of these stacking up through your life, and they will always happen and never stop happening.
So, you know, and everyone will have had significant events at key ages in their life that will have set them off on a different pathway or made an impact on them in some way.
So Sue's asking,
that's good questions there, Sue. What is your view about the tendency for people to point the finger outside themselves through gossip and celeb fascination, etc.? And do you see that eventually changing? The media is hypnosis, Sue. That's all I want to say on that, really, because while the media get paid for telling stories, the television, the newspaper, whatever you give focused attention to, if you're sat there watching the news, that's one of the doors that open up an emotional event. Repetition is another one. So if people are sitting there watching about something on the news that's really, you know, it's on there all the time, or it's really like all emotive and they're all going off panicking about, the door opens and it's in. And then it's in there. Then you've got to do something about it. Then, and if it triggers something from your past of significant events, then it's got a double whammy attached to it, hasn't it? So you know, think about all what goes on.
This
celebrity thing, but people look how they're brainwashed about how they want to dress or how they want to live their lives like a celeb.
Hypnosis.
It's hypnosis.
And finger pointing. It's something about acceptance, isn't there? In there as well, about acceptance or truth. And in honesty, almost.
It is. That's a hard one. That's a hard one. You know, to be honest with yourself. You know, it's something that I've learned over the years. It's to ask yourself the question and have an honest answer. And it's not even having to do it to anyone else. It's just with yourself. That's where it starts from.
And I suppose with those energies as well, you've got a certain tribal aspect as well, haven't you? With this celebrity and famous people culture that we see nowadays. And yes, I'm old, I don't care. Margaret Rutherford was a celebrity. Kim Kardashian, who? What?
They have a lot of power, don't they? Because they'll use celebs. They'll use celebs to get a story across. They'll use celebs to manipulate people. Because people who are easily hypnotized, because some people are easily manipulated, you know, and and you know, some people are quite vulnerable, and so you know, it's being professional and mindful about all of that. But there are people who know these things and they'll still use it as a tool.
You know, the mind is so powerful, isn't it? You hear the phrase I use, the mind has a mind of its own, and it really is. No matter what you do to try to access it, tame it, or whatever, it will still seems to get the upper hand quite often. And just think that we live in the conscious mind, but there's so many facets in the subconscious. If you could access those parts of the subconscious simultaneously and work with them simultaneously, how powerful that could be on a very different level that we perhaps can't even comprehend.
Interesting.
I mean, there's it brings to mind, there's some Buddhist monks in India who practice meditation called Tum Mo. Have you heard of that?
I haven't.
That one, Tum Mo, and it's the translation is inner fire, in our language, in our money. And what they do is they sit to a very deep meditation, and through their mind they can actually control their physical body, which just shows the connection between the mind and the body. And what they do, they wrap themselves in very cold, wet towels, drop into meditation, and then within minutes, the steam starts to come off the towels as their body temperature has been lifted so high through meditation that the towels actually dry themselves wrapped around their bodies. And they can do this several times, one after the other, and 3 or 4 times it's possible that they can dry off these towels. And for most people, wrapping in a cold environment in cold, wet towels would actually take you into hypo or whatever. But they can control the body through the mind to be able to lift that. So if that's possible, it just makes you wonder what else is possible.
Would that link in with the stories you hear, like of the mother lifting a car off of her child in that moment?
Yeah,
of
they
just
tapped
being able
into
to
something.
It's that unconscious moment of discipline.
Yeah, good point. Superhuman strength tapped into something. What we think is possible is only what we think is possible. It's not what is actually possible. We're limited by what we believe. Oh, you can't lift that car, it's far too heavy. Who says?
Yeah.
The more open-minded we are about things, the better.
Yes, very true. And actually looking at our beliefs and disbeliefs as well. In the spiritualism world, this time, if you've gone back 2 years and said, right, I'm going to do a Zoom service and you're going to demonstrate mediumship, people are gone, right, that's going to work. And here we are. Because we, the corporeal beings swarming across the face of this planet, have said, I can't be done. But when we didn't have any choice and actually opened ourselves up to possibilities.
Walking on fire, things like this, all of these things, laying on beds of nails and things. It's, I know they sound theatrical and such like, but it's just another example of what
there have been
could be done.
There have been operations undertaken in NHS hospital up north using hypnosis.
Wow.
So
instead of anaesthetic,
I'd volunteer for that.
Deep enough into trance.
I would.
If you take somebody deep enough into that place, then they're not consciously aware of their physical body at all. So the power of the mind is still, there's a lot more there that needs to be brought out into the world, really.
Hugely.
We're only using something like 10% of our brain or something, isn't it? Something said, so we could access the rest, which is probably the subconscious.
Yeah, it is. Everything's in the subconscious, and that's what connects us to spirit, isn't it? I mean, some people aren't open enough. They're not open-minded enough to believe or understand that there's a world beyond this, but there is.
Very true. But that 10% of the mind, that only applies to the ladies. The blokes, we only manage 2.5.
Well, they can multitask already, can't they? You see, absolutely.
I feel like I've hijacked it a bit with the hypno, and I love all of my therapies, really. But
what sparked that? Where was that moment, that point of going, I gotta learn that?
It was I was at a workshop with a medium from the Arthur Findlay College, And this medium was a hypnotherapist. And I remember thinking, that's interesting, because it's to do with the mind, isn't it, when we communicate with spirit. I wonder why, you know, she's a hypnotherapist and she's also a medium. She's also a minister as well at the Orthopedic College. And it made me curious. And then during one of our transitions and challenges of life, I was training to do massage. And the lady who trained me in massage was actually a hypnotherapist. And she said, come and have some sessions with me, Fiona. I was suffering from a frozen shoulder at the time. I was told that I shouldn't do the massage course by the GP that I saw at the time. But being Fiona, I don't listen.
There's authority coming in again.
Yeah, there's authority there. But I don't listen. I'm not one for listening. And, you know, I have a mind of my own, so to speak. And I thought, if somebody says you're not to do it, it makes me want to do it all the more. So I carried on with the massage course, and the lady who trained me in the massage course said, why don't you come for some hypnotherapy with me, Fiona? And I did, and it was life-changing. And it sort of planted the seed that a few years later, I found Chris Fleet at the Devon Clinic, the Devon School of Hypnotherapy, and I went to his open evening. We did a free open evening to explain how hypnotherapy is. And then I went on to do the certificate. Paul did the certificate, but I wanted to continue and do the diploma. And it was like the missing piece of the jigsaw. It reminded me of when I did my degree in HR all them years before, and I did employment law last of all. I wish they'd done it at the beginning, because the employment law underpinned everything that I did and made sense of everything. And that's how I felt about the hypnotherapy. The journey had been what it had been to get to the hypnotherapy, but it was like the missing piece of the jigsaw that gave me the whole picture, because the hypnotherapy actually underpins everything that you do. Because everything's about the mind.
Yeah.
So you asking how I got into it, it came from books. And I was, you know, what I've learned, and I carry on, I'm still reading, and there's more CPD to do. We're always learning. But I know that that's where I found the answers.
So much is in the deep mind, the subconscious, and yet we spend so much of our time kind of fishing people out of the river rather than going back to find out why they're falling in. Getting back to the root cause.
Yeah.
Because if you don't sort that out, it's just going to keep happening again.
Yeah. And everything you can track back to child or a significant event that's happened after. So it's up to the age of 8, and then the door shuts. And then you have certain ways of opening the door, but it's those significant events that can get trapped. So you get people in traumatic events. A good example is Prince Harry. 12 years of age, he lost his mother. He was on a transition from boy to man. So his critical faculty, the gate was shut like that. But that traumatic event opened the door. The media had it everywhere, all over the television. It was everywhere. And there was nowhere that boy couldn't go that he didn't see all of that played out. And that was all going in his subconscious. He didn't have anybody to help him through the stages of grief, because there are many stages of grief. And he was obviously of the belief, because of his background and the heritage and the ancestry, to put the stiff upper lip on and don't talk about it. Don't go there. Don't talk about that. Just get on with it. And he put it like a book on a bookcase. His book of grief, he parked it on the bookcase, and he's left it there until what happened? He got married and he became a father, and he watched his son come into the world. There's another emotional event. The door opened and he's got all of that, and he hasn't processed his grief.
The book came flying off the shelf.
Yeah, it did. It came flying off the shelf. And now he's an embarrassment.
Flung itself open on the table.
He's an embarrassment to his family, because they don't understand. But that boy, he's not a boy now, but he's stuck at 12. He's a man. How old is he now? 36.
Yeah, about that.
But that young man, he's reliving being 12, and he's got a voice now. So he's had therapy, and he won't shut up. Why? He shouldn't have to shut up. He wants somebody to listen to what he's got to say, because they didn't listen to him at 12. And so he's working it out bit by bit, but it's all there in his subconscious. And there is the significant event. There is the emotion that opened up the door into his subconscious. And then it took another trigger to give it a good old shake up, like a snow globe, isn't it? The snow globe, it's...
The snow globe is not just for Christmas.
No. No. How do you reopen the doors you have closed without knowing? Well, there's different ways, Joan. That's a good question, but hypnosis is one of them. An emotional event is another. Authority is another. Repetition is another. And the desire to want to open it is another. So, but, you know, it's... if you work with anybody to deal with stuff that's stuck there, you need to make sure that the person knows what they're doing, because it's very fragile. You can't go in. No,
it's not something you can easily do yourself. It's someone to
you need
facilitate.
You need somebody to facilitate it. Somebody who's trained, and not an online qualification. Somebody who's registered with the proper, like the CNHC. Somebody who has clinical supervision, and somebody who's very experienced and knows what they're doing.
And face to face.
And face to face. None of this online stuff to do with regression and going in and doing parts therapy.
Yeah.
Parts therapy. You can't do it online, because the person can have an ab reaction, and you can lose your link on the internet.
And I've seen some things advertised or online and thought, no. Sorry, I think you need a person there. We're just going back to the power of the mind part of the conversation there, because the lovely Pam here is asking. So when we're starting to get into that, you know, releasing the full power of the mind, is that could that be part of the condition we know as an out-of-body experience, where the consciousness goes beyond?
In the subconscious, yes.
I'm sat here in the room with a desk.
If you go back in with age regression, it links into past life regression, but you need to deal with this life first. No use going back to other lives. You have to deal with this life, because this is the life we're living in now, isn't it?
Yeah. Then you're back to is the mind the brain? Is the mind a thought? Is it just energy? In which case it's not connected to the physical part.
No.
In which case, yes, you can separate it from the body.
Yeah.
In theory.
Yeah, well, you can. If you can do operations on people without anaesthetic with hypnosis, and they've gone down deep enough, they're not in their body, are they?
No.
Because if they were in their physical body, that's when they feel physical pain. So, yes.
Or the connection is certainly not there.
No.
As strong as it's.
But there has to be a trust, you know, and you know yourself, when we have the transitions and challenges of life, and if they're big ones and traumas, then we can be quite delicate and quite vulnerable. And there are people out there who will take advantage, and I've been aware of that on my journey. So it's but what I would say to anybody, always use their heart and their intuition as their internal compass.
Yeah.
You know, because your subconscious mind only ever wants to keep you safe. That's all it wants to do. And if you have a little niggle there, no, I can't trust this person, this doesn't feel right, you need to explore that. And no, don't dismiss it and just carry on regardless. Because it's there for a reason. Because, you know, the subconscious connects us, doesn't it, to our higher self and spirit.
Yeah, great believers that you will be guided to the right person at the right time. It's almost a bit like you've all heard of Harry Potter and wizard chess. I'm a great believer there's some sort of spiritual chess going on, and there's someone up there moving us all around into the right place at the right time to meet the right person to help us with next move. And if we trusting that, then you will find the right person that will help. And we started developing our tools and toolkits fundamentally to help ourselves initially. Let's be honest, because if you don't help yourself first, then you're not really in a great position to help others. And it's only where we then got to the point that we'd sort of built up a number of things that we wanted to start to share these things with others, the knowledge. So we hold home circles and things, and we openly share what we know. We don't know everything, but we're happy to share what we know, and do it all with love and kindness. And if you can just help one person out there at some point, just for one moment to one challenge, then that's great. That's
you
fantastic.
know yourself, Lawrence, you opening up, doing what you're doing has opened up so much around the world now that was a closed shop before. People who were mediums, some people, not saying all, but some, it was a bit sort of, undercover, wasn't it, for some? And they didn't always share about it all. But actually, the more we share our experiences and our learning, the better it is for mankind going forward.
Yeah, very true. And one of the big things that's coming out of this time is this network now of people across the world. When we're talking about different subjects, the shamanic journey, people are very interested in, and to explore it. And we wouldn't have done it in 2019. It's as simple as that. If somebody said to me, I want to do a shamanic group here, I'd be going, oh, no, I'm not sure about that. And now here I am, whenever I go into meditation, half the time I trip off on a shamanic journey, and I'm just going, no, this is great. I'm loving this.
Well, that's another way of getting into the subconscious, isn't it, with drumming? Sound, it opens, it shifts the mind. Sound.
Yes. Yeah, and I love music, any sort of music, I'm in there. So, Paul, you recently did a men's support group, is that correct?
Yeah, it was, that's probably a very grand title for it, but it was along that theme, really. Something Fiona used to do very, very often a few years ago, was a kind of cake and chat, and it started as a cake and chat for the bereaved, and it's probably the first one set up in Torbay at the time. Yeah, it was. So it's kind of continued on from there, really, hasn't it? You held the first one for women down in our room, our little centre down in Newton Abbot, and on the back of that, I did one for gents. And it's harder getting men together. It's just part of our culture and tradition. So I started off thinking of calling it a well-being coffee and chat, and I ended up dropping the well-being and just called it a gents coffee and chat, because again, it's just that language. It's all about language, and it's getting into that subconscious again, isn't it? If you use the wrong language, you're not going to you can knock on the door, but if they're going for one thing, and it was like, Laurie, we men are not great at talking about things. you know emotions, feelings, what we're thinking. We're great at having a chat and a joke and such like. So it's a kind of just a different way in. I think it's a different way in. So you get guys together for a bit of a chat and a drink or a coffee and a cake in this case, and Fiona's homemade cakes always does a job of attracting a good audience. And then you just let the conversation unfold. Just let it go where it goes. Don't force it. Don't push it. So that went well. Had a small group, had a gathering, and it's something we're thinking of holding perhaps once a month going forward. Numbers are limited, of course, under the COVID restrictions. We're fortunate enough we've got an outside garden off our room, so and I had a sunny day. So the outside space called us, the coffee called us, the cake called us, and we had a good chat and great response, and kind of when's the next one sort
we
of
learn
thing.
from it, don't we? We learn.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yes,
do.
we need more cake.
Yeah, we learn. We're always learning.
But yeah, we learn from it, and
as
you
we
know,
give, we receive.
it's just facilitating, really. It's not there to talk about things, preach people, to tell people what to do. It's just giving them space, holding space to allow people to talk, and that's all some people need. It's that space to talk. A bit like the veterans thing. It's somewhere to go that people can just have that conversation and feel safe.
Yeah, very true. And what about you, Fiona? What's going to, now we're starting to re-emerge, what's coming up for both of you with the SunflowerMoon?
Well, I love all the tools in my toolkit. I mean, I love the massage, and I love the tuning fork sound therapy, and I love the hypnotherapy, as you've gathered. But it's not everyone wants a massage, because not everybody likes to be touched for various reasons. So the tuning forks is another way in. I've helped Paul with his Reiki. That's been lovely, because I did my 2 years UK healers, and I did my Reiki.
Yep, so we can start teaching Reiki again, so that's great. I've had some interest for that again, and I just wish everyone did their Reiki one, because I think the self-awareness and self-healing is, and it's not just about healing and symbols and things. Reiki is about the 5 principles and how you bring them into your life.
Yeah.
And if you can bring them into your life, you know, do not anger, worry, gratitude, self-respect, and you know, respect for everyone and kindness, and it can be a wonderful thing, you know, working hard on yourself. If we can just adopt some of these principles in every day, then life can be such a different
self-awareness groups
such
that
a different
we've
place.
done, haven't we? We've done those, but you know, it's not easy sometimes to live by the Reiki principles.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
no, absolutely not.
You know,
but
I'm aware that when you're, you know, we're human, aren't we? We're human. You know, we're not perfect. Nobody said we ever were, but we're trying to be the best version of ourselves that we can be.
Yeah.
But as I say, when I do my readings, I always get the lessons I need to move on. Oh, thank you, Joan. That's really kind of you. Yes, my work at the hospice, that's another area of learning altogether, really. That I've been at the hospice since 2013 as a volunteer. And I've seen myself grow and develop and learn in that time. Many, many lessons. And my dream was to work on the ward as a complementary therapist, and I did set that goal, and I did achieve it. But I wasn't quite ready. My subconscious mind wasn't quite ready to cope with the challenges of being at the coalface. Because I'd worked out in the community for a long time doing the bereavement training. But to be on the coalface is another area to deal with emotions and feelings. So I stepped away for 18 months from the coalface, and I ended up doing my self-awareness at the church and going to Arthur Findlay and developing my mediumship and training as a hypnotherapist. And I've gone back, and I've been back on the ward since Christmas in January of this year, during the lockdown. And I realised how much I'd grown in that, how I was able to deal with and process things in my mind without it taking me out. Because before I'd get my mind with the emotions of being with people in that way. I'd be in there so much it would be like a tsunami. It would take me out, and I'd end up, one day I went home with a violent headache, and the woman who I report to said, Fiona, you know, you need to learn how to manage and to balance it. And I thought, I'll never do it, but I have, and I went back, and I've been back since January, and I can't believe having learned to take control of my own mind and my emotions and my feelings, And I put the uniform on, and that facet of my diamond, that part of me, I'm in that place. And that's where I get the self-discipline from, with the uniform. That once I've got the uniform on, and I go back to the office after I've been on the ward, and I take the uniform off and I put my civvy clothes on, and as soon as I walk through the door, I've left it behind. But it's took me how long to learn that? But I'm glad I have learned it, because otherwise I couldn't do it, and then I'd be missing out on so much. Because every person I've been with has taught me so much that is so helpful for me on my journey.
They've got a lovely practice in the Samaritans that there's always got to be 2 of you on shift manning the phone lines. You can never do it alone. But at the end of each shift, the supervisor or the duty manager of the day will phone and speak to both of you and just sort of like debrief. Did you have anything there? To make sure that you're not walking out of the door still holding that one phone call. And that is such a good practice. It really is, because you know it's coming.
It is.
Well,
because the lady that I have, who's my boss in the team, in the complementary therapy team, she's amazing. She's got so much experience and knowledge that anything that I might experience, she's already been there and experienced it. So, and that's it. I take my hat off to them, really, because they do it on a full-time basis. They're there more than I'm there. I'm only there on a Friday. But to be there every day, and it's all of those people who are dealing with, but somebody, doing that job is a privilege.
Yes, it is
an honour and a privilege to do it.
Huge honour, indeed. Fiona, Paul, thank you. Absolutely lovely night.
It goes so quick, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? Yeah,
it does.
Yeah,
it does. These hours just fly by. Thank you so much, and thank you for the cake. Both of them.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It travelled well, I hope.
Oh, it travelled exceptionally well. Absolutely.
You didn't notice the nibbles out of the side of the cake that I was munching on the way down, did you?
You didn't. I know.
I'm only joking. COVID restrictions and all that. It was kept well away from me, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And have you owned up to Fiona about your coffee?
Yes.
What is that?
Well, I won't reveal it online, but there were certain.
No, he hasn't told me about the coffee.
I did.
Did you? I don't remember that.
There you go. It didn't go in your subconscious, did it?
It's gone in and gone out again. I think we learn that, don't we? Sometimes.
He had a cup of grown-up coffee.
Yes, it was very adult. It was. It was.
Yes, he did. Yes, I know what he's talking about now.
It was what you would call spirit coffee, wasn't it?
Yeah. And he never got to talk about his red lights. That's what
I know.
That's for next time. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
we'll entitle it "The Red Lights" to make sure you bring it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for tonight. Absolutely lovely. It's always a joy to meet up with the pair of you. Absolutely.
Oh, bless. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody at home, for watching, and those who will watch later on catch up. Next Saturday, we have Jules Raven Stewart, and she'll be talking about her work as a soul midwife. And I find that practice quite fascinating, and it links actually very much with the energy of tonight as well, of that end of life care and the interaction with people. So we're going to have just that slight shift in the energy next week, but on the same theme. So we're looking forward to that. Fiona, Paul, anything you want to say to everybody before?
Well, thank you for your time, is what I want to say, because time is the most precious thing we have.
Yeah, true.
And we can't make time, can we? But so to have tuned in tonight and listened to us chat and support our SunflowerMoon holistics and hypnotherapy, it means a lot. So thank you, and for all the lovely questions. Because we take so much from every conversation we have. and every interaction we have, because we always want to grow and learn. Thank you, Christina.
No, it's brilliant. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Just keep shining your light, really. Stay, keep smiling, keep chuckling, keep those chuckle boxes well and truly oiled up, and just keep on going, really.
Do our best. That's all we never do, isn't it? Is do our best, but work from the heart, and let it be your compass, really.
And the words of the two Ronnies, it's good night from me.
Yeah, and it's good night from me, or good night from him.
Thank you both. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.